In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a basic architectural structure without having any available CAD plans, and to get the scale there or thereabouts correct, so everything's real world size. Now, from looking online, I was able to find some great reference. I found this good section elevation, and I've also found a very good ground floor plan. And these two are enough for me to get the general size and shape of the building correct. So it's fairly realistic. I've also found quite a few internal photographs, which will come in very, very handy for deducing exactly how big everything should be. So this is my first reference point, which is an internal door. And that's going to be the basis for scaling the whole scene, really. So what I've done is looked online and found out a general size, and I've just picked one at random because they're all very similar in size. And for me, it was 838 millimeters wide and 1981 millimeters tall. And I've just put a width in there just to give me a visual aid. So the first thing I need to do is to create a plane to add the elevational section onto. The easiest way is to find out the exact size of the image. We can get that in the dimensions, so 1992 by 685, which is going to be quite small. 685 by 1992, doesn't matter, it's going to be scaled up. I already have this loaded into my material editor, so I'm going to assign that and add a UVW map, and then turn off real world scaling, and there we go. We have the elevation, the correct aspect ratio on a plane. Now I know, because I've already set this up, that this is the wrong way around, so I'm going to mirror my plane instead of mirroring the texture, and then I'm going to scale it up so the door is the correct size on the drawing. Now, what I noticed from the internal shot is that these windows are drawn on the plans and elevations, but any internal doors aren't. And just as a guesstimate, that door looks pretty much the same height as the top of that window frame. So that gives me another good reference point from the door. So looking at this, this is the window frame. That window frame needs to be the same size as this internal door. So I can scale this up and keep on scaling until I get somewhere close. And we'll drag it over. Oh, gone a little bit too big there. That should be not far away. So I can bring it down a little bit. Bring it up a little bit, sorry. And that should be somewhere there or thereabouts. So that door frame is now the size of the window frame, which it is in our reference photography. So that'll really help with the scale. Now it's time to put the plan in. And this is a very, very basic way of doing it. Stick another plane in. Find out the size of the JPEG like we did before, 1761, 1157. So 1157, 1761. And I already have it loaded up in my material editor. And we'll add that in. UVW map, real world scaling off. And that is the wrong way around. So 1761, 1157. And we'll put that rotation to 0. Oh, that's not right either. Sorry, 1157, 1761. There, now we have it. So we'll bring that over towards the center of this, and we'll rotate it 90 degrees, and we'll start scaling this up. And as I said about this being a basic method, it is just about intersecting the splines, or sorry, the planes, and matching where the walls meet. So we can see the exterior walls. It's still a little bit small. We can keep on scaling. That looks like it could be somewhere close. Probably still a little bit too big. And we'll just give that another little nudge. Could be a little bit bigger again. And we're not far away with that. So we could bring it down a touch more. Oh. It's not playing ball, is it? So you get the idea. So we now have, oh, that's actually okay. So we now have a plan and an elevation that line up. So we'll bring this away below 0. We'll bring this further away from 0 too. And this gives me the basic layout to create some internal and external geometry of the building. So the first thing we'll do is create some basic external walls. And the easiest way to do this is to just create a spline and start drawing. So if you hold down Shift, you can keep the line straight. It constrains it to 90 degrees depending on where you're going. So that's very helpful, but we can see that this isn't straight. Obviously it's an old building. You know, we could make it easier for ourselves and model it all in line, but I think that would take away from some of the kind of traditional architecture and a bit of the realism. So I'm going to go with the wonky walls, I'm afraid. So I'm just going to draw around these. We're going to keep the internal walls separate for the moment. It just makes it easier when it comes to texturing and breaking things up and seeing what you do and don't need. So I'm going to miss out walls like this, and I'll model them separately afterwards, because we can use snaps to put them in the correct place. So close spline. Now for the next spline, I'm going to turn off start new shape. So every time I draw a spline from now, it will be a continuation of the last spline. And it means I don't have to go through and attach everything. When I extrude it, it will be the same shape, and you only have to extrude it once. So we just keep drawing through. Close spline. We'll get a few of these done, and then we'll link them all together. So that'll do for now. Once we've finished this, so we have some basic splines for our walls. We can go into the front view, which is F shortcut if you didn't know, and we can extrude these any amount we want. We can press Alt X, that makes it invisible. So that then allows us to put in a value. A 2000 is not far away from an average ceiling height, so 2070 will just make it 2080, so it's a round figure. Obviously that's gone over the window heights, so I'm going to put an edit poly modifier on it, and I'm going to put a connect through, and I'm going to move the connect up to the top of the door frame, which you can see is obviously higher than the door. Now if we come back into perspective mode, this now enables us to put in the geometry above the window frames. So we can select the polygons, and we can use the bridge tool, and that allows us to go through and create all of the window boxes quite simply, without having to add in extra models and snap pieces of geometry and cut and paste and things like that. If you just think about this from the beginning and how you can adjust it in the future, you can keep it all very, very simple. And that starts to give us the basic structure. Now, having previously modeled this before, I have a spline reference. Everything's a little bit off 0 from before. So I've used the same technique as the walls, but I've gone through and I've drawn a spline for the ceiling, or for the roof, sorry, not the ceiling. And I'll bring these down to meet the walls, and we can snap these. That'll help us later with light leaks. This wall's a bit higher in the middle, so what we need to do is we need to cut some geometry through here. So we'll select this, and we can connect that just once, and we can set this to edge constraint, which just allows us to move along the edge but still snap in the X value to there. And now I can select my vertexes and connect these walls, or sorry, connect these verts. And I can do the same thing here. I can use the cut tool instead, and I can cut through there. Around the sides to there, and I can do the same thing to there. Now what that will allow me to do now, we'll just tidy this up a little bit and keep it on edge constraint. Have a little thing about tidy geometry, which I'm sure some of my ex-colleagues will tell you. And now we can extrude just this wall, which is obviously down the center of the building. We can go into the front view and extrude that up to where it should be. So another 190mm, we'll just call that. And that's just a basic, quick way of knocking up some basic architectural geometry using no dimensions at all, really. Just one reference point, looking at our reference photos, finding out, you know, what meets what where, and just using a little bit of common sense and some simple spline and edit poly modifiers. And as you can see, we already have the basics of our building, and from there we can just take it on and add a lot more detail. And in the next lesson, that's exactly what we'll be looking at. Thank you.